Today we're taking a look at Walmart's top shelf versus bottom shelf, and we are doing Norwegian waffles, or if you're fancy, Vafler. And I'll include a recipe. This is actually my wife's grandmother's recipe, so we're gonna let you on the secret of it. Don't abuse it, because it's a great recipe. And so on the right side here, we've got all of our top shelf ingredients. The left side, we've got our bottom shelf ones. Everything's pretty normal until these last two ingredients, and due to just current shortages in our area, we've got baking powder, and it's only the name brand. Couldn't find the Walmart one, and then we've got the cardamom as well, which they didn't have any cardamom at all. We just happened to have some from previous makes of these waffles. So now you've seen all the ingredients. Here is the recipe for it in all of its lengthy glory. And again, I'm letting you in on the secret, so don't squander it, otherwise I'll never do this again. So starting us off, we've got our eggs, and I'm gonna try an amazing one-handed crack here. You ready for this? Yeah, I just crushed them completely. Luckily, no shell got in it, and I was able to redeem myself on round two with a little more effort and a little more concentration, but definitely not a top shelf chef here, more the bottom shelf chef. Our second ingredient will be the sugar, and this is the top shelf Domino brand. It's a pretty common sugar brand here where we're at. They have it in every size, even at the bulk stores. You've got the giant bags of it, and it looks like white sugar. It's just normal granulated sugar. It's sweet and sugary. It mixes well together with the eggs. We creamed it for about 2 minutes here. There was nothing weird or fancy going on. Moving over to the Great Value stuff, honestly, there's no difference. It's sugar. It might have tasted a little bit less sweet than the Domino brand, but I mean, when you're tasting raw sugar, it's kind of hard to see really what's going on. And it creamed together basically the same. The eggs, as you could tell, they were definitely a more golden color on the top shelf than the bottom ones. But other than that, everything was the same. Moving over to the flour, we've got our King Arthur on the right, and it's definitely got a different color to it than the Great Value stuff. It's a lot more brown, and that's due to it being unbleached, but it's way more expensive. You're talking $4 or $5 for the King Arthur, and then like $1 for the all-purpose from Great Value. And here's a little close-up of it. You can kind of see that the King Arthur is a little more yellow in this shot. It really does have a darker color to it though in real life. Going on to our salts, we've got our plain salt on the left from Great Value and our Morton Salt on the right from Morton. Basically the same, that tastes salty. It's a salty salt that tastes salty. The next two ingredients are going to be the baking powder and the cardamom. We didn't have any comparisons between these two, so I'm not going to focus on them, but they were both pretty good ingredients. Skipping over to the butter now, we've got our cultured butter on the right and then the sweet cream butter on the left. So we kind of got rid of our Kerrygold here and we branched out a bit and we started with some cultured butter, which may or may not be a very even comparison because cultured butter does taste a bit different. If you've never tried it before, I'd highly recommend it. Really good, but it is still expensive. So here's the full mixes together. Not too much of a difference, just the overall color is a little bit darker on the name brand things. We started mixing the name brand ingredients first. Started off with those creamed eggs and sugar together and then added the melted butter as well. And then it tells you to add milk until the right consistency is found. And after a phone call from my wife to my mother-in-law, we found the right consistency is a little runny and definitely not thick like a normal American style pancake or waffle. And so after many attempts here to get the right amount of milk, we finally ended up with a good consistency here and we're able to start cooking them. But it did take me like 5 times to actually pour the right amount of milk in here. And I was able to do better the second time, but these recipes from the heart definitely takes a bigger and better heart than I've got. And we have this waffle iron we got from Amazon. Don't know if I'd recommend it, so we're not really going to name the brand here or anything. It doesn't cook super evenly, but it was dirt cheap, so that's why we went with it. And Norwegian waffles, from what I kind of found online and some recipes I was looking at, they typically are a bit softer than the crispy American waffle that personally I hold dear. These ones definitely, they feel like a Waffle House waffle if you don't ask for them to crispy it up a little bit more. So it's still cooked all the way through, but just kind of a soft texture overall. Switching gears, we're going back to the bottom shelf ingredients. Starting off, we've got our creamed sugar and eggs, and then I added the butter in following that. Looks basically the same. Not huge differences here between the two. Pouring in the milk this time, I got a little more aggressive and put the right amount in. Oh wait, just kidding. It needs more. And I ended up breaking my whisk on this, so I wouldn't use a whisk if you've got the choice. I had to pop one of the wires back in after it pulled itself out from my aggressive whisking. When we went to cooking them, it was very similar process between this and the first one. Not much of a difference, not much variation. I was a bit better handling the waffle iron at this point, but I wouldn't really say anything changed between the two. On the overall cooking, they looked pretty similar. The smell was basically the same as well, just due to the cardamom. We'll go into that a little bit more. And we didn't include this in the original shot. I just forgot about them. They were in our fridge. And we actually bought separate maple syrups for this. So on the left, we've got the Great Value. On the right, we've got our top shelf. There was only a 50-cent difference between the two, but I definitely think the extra 50 cents is worth it. We've been buying this Great Value pure maple syrup for quite a while, and it's not bad. Wouldn't really say it's anything terrible. Definitely better than like any of the cheaper syrups you can buy, the fake maple syrup ones. But it definitely has a distinct aftertaste to it that the Maple Grove brand didn't. Right now online, these are actually showing the same price at $7.98, even though we did get the maple one from Great Value a little bit cheaper than that. So if you're going to be within $1 of it, I would go for the more expensive one if you're going for maple syrup anyway, or maybe seek your syrup elsewhere. And yes, we are well aware that this is not the traditional way to eat the Norwegian waffles. My wife's family typically puts yetoast on it with some raspberry jam. Yetoast is a Norwegian cheese. It's got a good caramel flavor to it. It's a softer goat milk cheese hybrid. So I just apologize, our maple syrup's not authentic. Here is what they look like. So they're both, you can see, a little floppy. I tried to coat them as evenly as I could with the butter and the syrup, so it wouldn't be too much of a discrepancy. And taste-wise, the top shelf again was better. Not super surprising here, but I couldn't really tell you what made it better from this taste test. The syrup and the butter were so much superior that basically it overpowered everything. So off camera, we ended up taste testing between the two, and both my wife and I were able to identify the top shelf one versus the bottom shelf. To answer the question of is it better, I would say not really in this case. The butter and the syrup definitely had a better flavor to it, but that's not the whole thing. If you had these side by side with a blindfold on, there's no butter or syrup, you wouldn't be able to taste the difference. So I would say don't go for it. Stick with the cheaper stuff. If you like what you're doing, let us know. Like the video, comment, tell us what you want to see next, and subscribe if you get the chance. Thanks so much.